right, let's work with our calculator with matrices. So the first thing that we would want to do, I'm going to kind of focus on these steps up here. So the first thing we would want to do is to write the system of equations as a matrix equation. So we'll work on letter A. We need to be sure that the variables are lined up and the equal sign. So we have x's here and y's. They have to be lined up in a vertical line. We have the equals lined up, and then we have the numbers. So this is lined up correctly. It's certainly possible for you to get some equations that aren't lined up properly. You would need to rearrange them so that this would be true, so that you would have the variables, the x and the y, you'd have the equal sign, and then you'd have a number. All right, so let's write it as a matrix. So we just copy the coefficients, 6 and the 3, 4, 3, 8, and 9. Okay, so we've done step 1. We have written that as a matrix equation. So before we work on putting in the calculator, let's determine what the order of the matrix is. So remember, it's rows, so we have 2 rows by 3 columns. So it's a 2 by 3. Okay, so step 1 done. Step 2, we're going to use our calculator. We're going to press the menu, and we want to do calculator. We want to add the calculator. Okay, then so we've done step 2. Step 3, we want to go to our menu and then see where it says 7, which is matrix and vector. So we do a 7, then we go over to create. So we're going to create a matrix, number 1. Okay, so see how we have an option to put the number of rows and columns. We just counted ours. We have a 2 row and a 3 column. So we would need to go over here and make that a 2 by 3 and hit OK. So now we have a little template, and we just need to type our numbers in there. So we've got a 6, got a 6, and then a 4, then an 8, then we have a 3, and a 3, and a 9. All right, so it's always a good idea to double check, just make sure you have the proper numbers up there, and we do. So 6, 4, 8, 3, 3, 9. Okay, great. So we have right here, we entered the numbers into the matrix. So step 6, we want to arrow right until we're out of the matrix. See how the cursor is inside? So let's arrow to get out of the matrix. And then we want to press Control Store to store the matrix. So here's the control, and then there's the store. So Control Store to store the matrix. See how it has a little arrow there? And then we want to store it, let's store it as A. Okay, so that's stored as A. All right, so the last step, so we have our matrix entered, it's entered as A, so if we were to hit an A and hit enter, see we have the matrix, so it's all in there for A. It's just going to help us in our calculations. It's much easier to type in an A than that whole matrix. Then the last step is to go to our menu and then a matrix, which is number 7. And then reduced row echelon form, which you can see right here, reduced row echelon form is number 5. See RREF, reduced row echelon form, and then we enter the matrix name, which was A. An arrow out of there and hit enter. And so what that has done is it's given us our answer matrix. So let me write that down. Let's write that down right here. So, and I'll explain how that goes. 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 2, 5. Okay, so there's something really super fun that to do is called Gaussian elimination. I know you so want to do that, but we're not going to do that. It's how you would do this by hand. And what you're looking for is these first spots right here. That is the identity matrix. You should have ones along this line, and you should have it should be along that diagonal line, and you should have zeros around it. So that's for a 2 by 2. I'll show you. We're getting ready to do 3 variables and 3 equations in just a moment. And so what happens is this first variable, whatever this first variable happens to be, that's what this first location is. So x is negative 2. And then the second variable, whatever it is, that's what this is. So y equals 5. And so we, just by entering the matrix in the calculator and doing reduced row echelon form, we're able to read the answers out of that last column. So we could just, it's a point. We just solved a system using a different technique, matrices. And now we have that point, which is negative 2, 5. All right, we have one more. We're going to do one more. This one is a larger matrix. This has got 3 variables and 3 equations. Again, the same strategy holds. You have to have, the x's lined up and the y's lined up and the z's lined up and the equals lined up and then numbers. I mean, you have to have that like that. All right, so let's write our matrix. So the coefficients, we'll just do x's, we'll go down. So 2, 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, and then 5, 2, 2. Okay, we've written our matrix down. Now let's look at the order of the matrix. So there's 3 rows by 4 columns. Okay, so let's go over to our calculator and repeat those steps. If you recall, I know it's a lot of steps, but we want to go to the menu. We want to do our matrix menu, and we want to create a matrix. We want a 3 by 4, so a 3 by 4. Okay, so there's a 3 by 4. So now we have our little template that we're going to put our numbers in. So we've got a 2, 4, 5, and 5. We've got a 1, 3, 3, and 2. And then we have a 2, 4, 4, and 2. Okay, so I just like to double check. I'll double check looking at the columns. So I've got a 2, 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 2, 2. Okay, great. And then remember, you right arrow out of the matrix, and we're going to store it. So let's do our control store. Let's store it as B, just for fun. We'll just make it B. Okay, so now whenever we hit a B, that's got our matrix in it. Okay, so last step is to do the reduced row echelon form. So we go to our menu. We want to go into the matrix menu. See, reduce row echelon form, not row echelon form, reduce row echelon form, number 5. Okay, and then we type in our matrix, which is a B, and then we hit enter, and there's our solution matrix. Now look at this one. This solution matrix, let me copy it down here. Notice that on this diagonal is ones, and around it, right here and here are zeros. That's the way it's supposed to look. That's the way it's supposed to look. So ones on the diagonal and then zeros. So our answer, again, the first variable in our matrix, this 2, 1, 2 are x's. So x is the first number, which is -1. That means y is -2 and z is 3. So writing it in coordinate point form, ooh, 3 dimensionals. Doesn't that sound fun? So we could graph in 3 dimensionals, but we're not going to do that right now. So -1, -2, and 3. And that is our lesson on inputting or solving. We're solving systems of equations in a different way. Instead of using elimination or substitution or graphing, we're using matrices to solve the system of equations.